Joining me now is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, a great friend. Senator Kennedy, thank you for coming back on the show. Before we dig into the Tulsi Gabbard, so forth, I want to clear the air about yesterday and the interrupted interview. A lot of lefty medias are saying things they shouldn't say. As I understand it, what happened was your IFB, your wire broke down, and you had a lot of noise in your ear, and you had to stop talking because you couldn't get anything through. Now, if there's something different there, you tell us. But I think that's all that happened. A lot of people are making conclusions about your health that they have no business making, sir.
Well, yesterday I was on your show. I enjoyed it. I was just yapping away, and all of a sudden, my earpiece blew up. This one, it sounded like a 747 was taking off. Man, my ears are still ringing. Anyway, so I assumed we were off there. I just stopped talking, and I didn't start talking again until I could hear you. And I don't know, some of the rags up here they've got all kind of stories that I had a brain freeze live on TV, or a stroke, or caught an STD live on television or something. I don't know. I know this will come as a shock to you, Larry, but not everybody in Washington likes me. And so when they can see an opportunity to try to start a rumor, they do, and that's what happened. But anyway, I'm okay. I'm back here today. I'm full of piss and vinegar, and I'll be glad to answer your question.
Well, yes, sir, 100%. That's why we want to get you back for your opinion.
I'll even, if you want to and we have time, I'll even do an old man backflip to show you that I'm okay.
Not necessary. Not necessary, by the way. I would just say, not everyone in Washington likes me either. And imagine doing this for a living. This IFB is in my ear all the time. And sometimes it just doesn't work. That's all there is to it. Okay, well, it's a great pleasure to have you back and weigh in. So this is a criminal reference regarding Obama, directly pointing to Obama, according to DNI Tulsi Gabbard. What you've got here is, I think, a lot of treachery, a lot of betrayal. You've got a lot of sedition going on. You are an attorney, among other things. What do you make of this right off the top after hearing what Tulsi Gabbard had to say today and the rest of the evidence, Senator Kennedy? What do you make of it, sir?
Well, I've been on the Senate floor or in a committee all day, so I did not hear her statement. I haven't read her report. I haven't read her first report, Larry. It's still on my desk. I don't know what, if any, President Obama's involvement was in this situation. I do know this. James Comey, Brennan, Clapper, those are nasty, mean people. Russia did try to meddle in our election. Other countries did too. But Comey, Clapper, Brennan started this rumor that President Trump actually colluded with Russia to meddle in the election. And they, of course, they had the media on their side, and they were spreading it. It was spreading like wildfire. And then all of a sudden, oopsie friggin' daisy, the Mueller report came out, which proved they were all lying. That part I am certain of. But the new developments, I just got to look at them. You know, the Justice Department will get to the bottom of it.
Well, it just seems...
But the cast of characters we're dealing with, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, as I think I was saying yesterday, I don't know if you heard me or not, but Jesus loves them, I'm sure, but everybody else thinks they're an idiot.
Well, that's, yes, we heard that part. That's why I love the word sedition, Molly Hemingway's word, sedition, betrayal. I mean, look at Senator, from what we know, from these reports, and now she's declassified these documents so everybody can read them. Basically, there was a key meeting in the White House when Obama encouraged and then signed off on this new assessment of the Russian interference story that was made up of, I don't know if I'll call them a pack of lies, but falsehood after falsehood after falsehood. Some of these falsehoods, by the way, appeared when Brennan took it to the FISA court, okay? No one's done anything about this stuff, but it was very clear that there were falsehoods. CIA people did not want to have this assessment. You've got whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork. It seems like they were aiming directly at Trump. one last point. Hillary Clinton comes into this, right? Hillary Clinton and/or her campaign or her foundation or something. Hillary Clinton financed this guy Steele, who was a lying, fired FBI informant, but they began to try to, pass his stuff off as real. All this in this assessment center. Something's definitely terribly wrong about this.
Well, again, I don't know yet. I haven't read the documents. What, if any, President Obama's involvement was. I do know that Clapper and Brennan and Comey worked for him. And these are not professional law enforcement officials or national security officials. These are mean, nasty people. They're political hacks. And those three have done more to tear down the institution of our intelligence agencies and the Department of Justice and the FBI than anybody in the history of this country. They better hope there's not a just God like I believe in. And that part I know is true. The rest of the part, I'm going to depend. I'm sure the DOJ and FBI will get to the bottom of it.
The same crowd cooked up the lies about the Hunter Biden laptop, you may recall, later on, where the FBI had actually had possession of the thing a year before the story broke out, but they made the 51 intelligence officers or retired intelligence officers. This was the handiwork of the same crowd. Brennan, Clapper. By the way, add Jake Sullivan, who was National Security Advisor once upon a time. He was involved in that. Turns out the whole thing was a lie. They knew all about it and all the stuff that was inside it. I mean, it just seems to me there has to be some consequences here.
Well, you know who else made the Hunter Biden laptop miscue happen? It wasn't just the guys that you just mentioned and that I've just mentioned. It was the media.
Yes.
It was the then owners of Twitter. It was Facebook. They all said the Hunter laptop isn't real, and the FBI had it for months. They knew it was real, and I asked the then director of the FBI. I said, look, why did you not step up and say, hey, man, the laptop's real. I've got it here at the FBI. And he said, well, I didn't want to look political. I mean, look, this stuff stinks. Everybody knows it stinks. American people know what's going on, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
Let me shift gears just a little bit.
Okay.
This terrible killing in New York, two criminals with long records, illegals, who shot up this border agent. And now the administration looking at that basically is saying they want to double up and go after, I don't care whether you're a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state. I don't care what the local mayors are saying. We got problems here in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago and so forth. It's time to double up. Now, this is more of a law enforcement issue. It's not an intelligence issue. But what do you think about doubling up and getting through the veil that somehow, Chicago or Los Angeles is not part of the Union? It's not part of the United States. Doesn't have to worry about the laws, the federal laws of the United States. Now, I'm not a lawyer. You are. But that sounds like a phony baloney argument to me.
Well, first, the law. The United States Constitution is clear. The federal law is the supreme law of the land under the Supremacy Clause. Mayors in Chicago and these other cities can't just ignore federal law. They may not like it. That's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. But they've got to follow it. And they're breaking the law when they not only don't follow it, but when they try to obstruct. And they should be prosecuted. Point two, most members of the Democratic Party, not all of them, but most members are going along with all this. And I just don't get it. I don't get it on the policy, not obeying the law. I don't get it on the politics. 77% of the American people support a secure border. I mean, the Democrats just believe in an open border. They're entitled to do that. This is America. I think it's stupid. It's bad policy and bad politics, but they believe it. But they can't act on it. They can't all President Trump is doing is enforcing the law. And I never have gotten this issue for the Democrats. I mean, it's one of the reasons they got beat, and they'll continue to get beat. American people just don't support open borders, and the Democrats feel like they believe in open borders. They think if you want to vet people coming into your country, that you're a racist. I don't think you're a racist. I think you're prudent.
You know, we got a guy here running for mayor in New York. Trump calls him Mandami the commie. But he's another guy, if he's elected mayor, he's 30-something years old, radical left, socialist, communist, whatever label you want to put on him. He wants to keep all the ICE agents out. He's an anti-Semite. He wants to keep Benjamin Netanyahu out. As you know, New York City, largest Jewish population in the world outside of the state of Israel. He wants to raise taxes, of course. He wants grocery stores to be run by the city or the state. He wants to tax, in particular, white billionaires, as he put it. If you get a guy like that, he becomes the head of the spear for the Democratic Party this summer. I mean, I think that plays into the hands of Republicans, or that plays into the hands of everybody who's sensible, who has common sense, whatever your political party is. What do you make of that story?
If I didn't know any better, Larry, I would think that Mr. Mamdani was a Republican plant.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Look, this is America. You're entitled to your opinion, but he is clearly a neo-socialist. You know, if the people of New York, excuse me, if the people of New York elect him, I hope they don't like eating and living indoors. He's in the foothills of goofy.
Yeah.
You know, my attitude is he's just part of our effort of Operation Let Him Speak.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't understand why 3/4 of the Democratic Party have not renounced this gentleman. And I'm not saying he's a bad person. I don't know him.
Yeah.
But I don't know why 3/4 of the Democratic Party hasn't renounced this guy. I mean, but they haven't, and that's why I say, you know, fine, let him speak. He's bad for America and bad for New York, but he's sure as hell good for the Republican Party.
Yeah. Democrats are really losers on all these issues. Anyway, Senator Kennedy, we appreciate you coming back. I'm so thrilled that your IFB earpiece worked this time.
It didn't blow up, man.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing when the technology works. Thank you for your help, and we hope you come back soon, sir. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Larry.
All right.